very jam-packed holiday season to get a little bit more background. If you haven't been through the training yet, we have the best in the business here with us today to give us the backdrop and the tools that we need to make sure we are effective in our leadership moving forward. And I just cannot stress enough that I understand that your hours are precious and your volunteerism is so very appreciated. So on behalf of myself, the board of directors, and the staff and the AE, we really appreciate your time and your volunteerism. And I'm not going to say anything else, but I do hope y'all have a wonderful holiday season in case I don't see you individually. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, Nhs and Colette Massengale will be our trainers today. Both are with Maryland Realtors and both general counsel for Maryland Realtors. And as mentioned, Veronica and I and Colette and Kathleen worked hours and hours on this presentation and really nail it down. We give you a lot of information in a short amount of time. So with that, Kathleen and Colette, you have the floor. Or is it Claire?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. And just to give a little praise the other way, Colette and I did spend a lot of time working with Kathy and Veronica especially, and just want to make sure that you guys all are aware of how strong your team is there at Harford County, how strong the staff is. Danielle, Laura, everybody there, they work really hard for you guys on this presentation as just a minor piece of it, but day in and day out, they do a lot for you guys, and you guys are fortunate to have that kind of support from your staff. I think I can share the screen. I hope, Colette, I'll share the screen.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. You may hear my cat in the background. I apologize for that. I'm not sure what's going on back there. All right.
All right.
All right. So hopefully everybody can see. Everyone can see? Yes?
Yes, we have the cover sheet, 2021 Chair, Vice Chair training, with a very nice image of something in Harford. What is that? The courthouse, county seat. County seat.
Yeah. Little local flavor for you guys. All right. So what I think everybody knows, yeah, Kathy introduced us, so we know pretty much everybody. I know a lot of you guys from statewide committees as well. What we are going to do today, obviously, this is to talk to you in your capacity as chairs and vice chairs, exchange information, and our agenda is on the slide now, what we're going to cover. Introduction, I guess, introducing ourselves, and then we're going to talk about you and your first meetings and introducing yourselves and your chairs and vice chairs in those meetings. The strategic plan and the significance of the strategic plan to the work of all of the committees, all of your action items, all of your goals, what you're trying to accomplish, how all of that fits hand in hand with your strategic plan and helps to implement your goals and objectives from the strategic plan. Meeting management and committee process we're going to discuss as well. I just saw Linda Harned just popped into my little side there. Linda's a very active member of the statewide forums committee, and that is from our level, from the state level, that is sometimes a challenging committee. So we have had Colette and I both have had to be involved with a little bit of meeting management and trying to implement some strategies to make sure that you're having a productive meeting, an effective meeting. So we'll share some of that information with you today as well. Lines of authority, that's basically a chain of command, essentially. What your committee will do, you'll have a meeting, you'll take a vote, you'll approve something. What happens then? How does your board of directors become aware of that? What's that process? So we'll go through that a little bit as well, and submitting those reports to the board of directors. And then, of course, no training would be complete, no meeting would be complete without a little bit of a discussion about RPAC. So Veronica's probably cheering over there on the side. So we will have a brief discussion of RPAC as well, and the significance of RPAC and the expectations for you in your capacities as chair and vice chair. All right, do you want to add anything, Colette?
No, I think that does, you did a nice job of kind of setting out the order of business today. So let's just keep it moving.
Jump into it.
And begin with the introduction. So at the very first meeting, and a lot of this I think is pretty much kind of common sense, but it's always nice to have some refresher, some points to consider. At the very first meeting that you have, you want to make sure that everybody knows who everybody is. Usually, I know the way we do it at Maryland Realtors Committee meetings, the staff will introduce the chair and the vice chair and make sure that everybody kind of reads the mission statement, really critical there. The other thing that we do, and in fact, the Maryland Realtors DEI is having a big strategic planning meeting in January. So we met yesterday for our pre-meeting. You want to consider having a pre-meeting with the chair, the vice chair, and staff, especially for that first meeting, to kind of lay out what the agenda is going to be, what the objectives are going to be, kind of get the order of the agenda and the topics for discussion together, and make sure that's actually a great opportunity for the chair, the vice chair, and the staff to make sure that the objectives are in line or aligned with the strategic plan. Anything you want to add to that, Kathleen?
Nope, I think you've done it. You said it all, Colette.
Yeah, and the other thing that we do, that second point there, review the mission statement. I know that helps to keep the meeting focused. So that's something that you want to maybe even consider doing at every meeting, just reading that mission statement first thing before you go down the agenda. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? All right.
Yeah, there was something in the chat, but it's just saying hello. So we're all good.
Okay.
All right. So we'll move on to the next.
All right. So strategic plan, really important. I believe Harford County Association of Realtors strategic plan is posted on the website. And Kathy, you can chime in. The way you all have it set up, it kind of outlines all the accomplishments that you have achieved thus far. It's definitely something that you want to take time to read, because you want to know what direction the association is going in. So you definitely want to take some time before the first meeting, to familiarize yourself with the strategic plan. I know the association leadership takes a lot of time organizing that, putting that together, and you want to make sure that whatever your committee is that you're doing aligns with that strategic plan.
Right.
Anything you want to add to that about core standards, Kathleen?
I think both the strategic plan and core standards, I don't know how familiar you all are with core standards. That is a phrase that's used by the National Association of Realtors. And essentially, we don't want to be an organization that just focuses on RPAC. No offense, Veronica. But we don't want to just focus on one thing, right? It's important that every local board, every state association, that we all focus on certain core requirements and core things. And part of that is advocacy and calls to action, et cetera. Part of it is community involvement. Part of that is just sort of the compliance component of it, and governance, and having access to an attorney for your association to review certain things when that comes up, making sure your bylaws are compliant with state law, things like that. So essentially, the strategic plan should be consistent with the core standards, and it should cover all of those areas. And we did take a look at your strategic plan as well. And as Colette had said, Kathy has gone back and even put in some of the goals and some of the accomplishments. It's really detailed. I believe everyone got a copy of that, but you can look under each topic or section in your strategic plan. And it really is, with Kathy's annotations in there, it's very detailed. Even we'll discuss like which committee is involved in accomplishing these goals. Like part of it, we'll discuss the legislative committee would be involved in this piece of it. RPAC would be involved in this piece of it. New member orientation, I think that was in there as well. So there's a lot of really detailed information there. So, read a strategic plan. Depending on your personality, that might sound fascinating to you, or it might sound like the most tedious thing on the planet, but it is really important, and really specifically in your capacity as chairs and vice chairs of a committee, because it's important to see how your committee fits into the overall plan and what the expectations are, what you can do to help move the objectives of the association, how you can move those objectives forward.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll add to that, Kathleen, is just I think this kind of highlights the importance of just being prepared. You want to make sure that And we'll talk about this a little bit, that when that agenda gets sent out to you, take some time to review it, not during the meeting, hopefully, but before the meeting. So you really have given some consideration to the agenda topics. So it's really about preparation so that you can ensure that the meeting is productive and effective.
All right. Any questions so far?
No, I didn't see anything.
Okay, we'll keep moving then. All right. This is probably your favorite topic, Colette.
Meeting management.
Meeting management.
Yes. All right. So the attendance policy, and this is all kind of housekeeping. You want to make sure that all of the folks, the volunteers, and we thank our volunteers because they give their time. First of all, I just definitely want to do that. Thank them for their time and commitment and service. But you do have an attendance policy. You want to make sure that folks understand what that policy is. I know at Maryland Realtors, I think if you miss more than 2 or 3 meetings, you might get a phone call from the chair or the vice chair asking, what's going on, because that attendance is important, helps to make sure that everybody's voice is heard. Anything you want to add to the attendance policy, Kathy or Veronica? Kathleen?
Yes, our board of directors, which I looked through our whole board of bylaws, it addresses the board attendance, but it does not address the committee attendance. So I think that would be something that we need to reevaluate and look at and go look at our bylaws in January and make that a commitment to change the bylaws to basically reflect how we do with the board attendance, same as the committee attendance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything you want to add, Kathleen? Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to say sort of a something that's come up, I guess, with some of the committees that I help staff. It's a little bit of a balancing act sometimes because you want some committees, you want to have a large committee, right? You want a lot of people to participate, and this is a way for people to become more engaged with your association, more involved with your association. So part of you wants to have a lot of people on your committees, but if you have a lot of people who are not showing up, that's going to hurt your committee, because we're going to talk about it in a minute, but you have to have a quorum. You have to have a sufficient number of people present in order to vote or take any action. So if you have a large committee and no one is showing up or very few people are showing up, that actually is going to inhibit or hinder your committee's ability to take action and accomplish things. So so I think Colette or Kathy had mentioned the chair and vice chair should be prepared if you see that someone is missing meetings to at least reach out to them and have a phone call, make sure they're aware of the expectations. And if you guys are office managers and brokers, you know this already. Sometimes there's a legitimate reason. Someone may have a medical issue. Their family is going through something. There may be a legitimate reason why they're missing meetings. If it's not that type of situation, you need to be prepared to have a heart-to-heart with them. And we have had some people who have withdrawn or resigned from committees because of things that were going on, their unexpected things in their personal life or their family life, where they knew that it was going to affect their ability to attend the meeting. So they voluntarily stepped off. So just keep that in mind. It's not just being the school principal, you're late, you're on the bad attendance report. It really can hinder the committee's ability to accomplish its objectives.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Veronica, I just wanted to add to that in our association, we had sort of an informal policy that said if you missed 2 meetings, that our chair would reach out to the person who missed those meetings to see if they were still interested in attending and being a part of the committee. And at that point, the chair would make a decision as to whether or not, based on what they heard back, whether that person would stay with the committee or not. Like you said before, things change in everybody's lives from day to day. You may start out thinking that that's something that you really thought you could do, and then something in your life changes, be it your business or your family life, and it's completely understandable and acceptable to leave a committee mid-year if you have to, but you just need to talk to the chair and let the chair know. And like Kathy was saying, we don't have a formal process in place, but we're going to work on that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. 2 right now, but we'll formalize it later.
Correct, Madam Chair, Madam President.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Veronica. Anything else on that point? I think we got that pretty good.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, all right, so going on to talking about developing the agenda, and I'd love for, Linda, you can chime in here. I know, because we have had on the state level, some of our committees have very, very full agendas. So it takes some creativity to prepare your agenda in a way that ensures that you get through it. I know just the way that we have done, and Kathleen, you can chime in and tell folks how the Statewide Forums Committee's agenda is kind of developed now. But what we usually do, reach out to the members of the committee and see, meeting is coming up. If they have any subjects, topics they want to incorporate onto the agenda, let staff know. And then staff and the chair and the vice chair come together and prepare the agenda and time it out to make sure that the meeting starts on time. Each topic is allotted enough time for discussion and that you can actually get through the agenda. I think it's really key when you're putting together the agenda to include time slots for each item so that the conversation doesn't go in a wrong direction. But I think the key with developing the agenda is just making sure that it's not too full so that you're constantly not able to get through everything. I know, Kathleen, you had said that starting 2021, Statewide Forums is going to, for example, because they have so many proposals that they want the committee to hear, having a consent agenda. That's not something that ordinarily has to happen for most committees, but again, the idea, I think, is to just make sure that you're set it up in a way that you get through all the items, that you've allotted enough time for there to be robust discussion about each topic. Anything you want to add to that, Kathleen?
Yeah, no, just a consent agenda. Again, as you said, Colette, it may not be appropriate for every committee, but some of the committees at the state level, if the staff will make certain recommendations, that maybe the RPAC trustees, there's going to be a recommendation to make a contribution of such and such amount to such and such candidate. And that would be set, sort of a consent agenda. If everyone agrees, then there doesn't have to be any discussion. That's what's going to happen. If someone knows one of the candidates and has an objection, doesn't think, thinks they should be supported at a higher level, thinks they should not be supported at all, they could ask that be removed from the consent agenda, and then it would be discussed as part of the normal agenda. So that's something just, you may need that, you may not need that, but just keep that in mind if you are having a more full agenda than you were planning on, or it ends up where you're maybe having some challenges getting through the entire agenda. That might be one option that you could look into. But again, just in general, I think just to summarize, as Colette had said, typically staff would prepare sort of a draft agenda and then share that with the chair and the vice chair.
Right.
For your first meeting, you're certainly going to meet and talk about it. Maybe your follow-up meetings, you don't have to have a meeting. Maybe you could do it all by email, but definitely want to give the chair and vice chair the opportunity to look at the agenda before the meeting and make sure if there's anything special that you want to talk about or anything you wanted to follow up on, that make sure that is added to the agenda before it goes out to the entire committee.
Good.
And Colette, I just wanted to add to that, and I know Statewide Forums is sort of unique, but prioritizing the items on the agenda. And that's something, Kathleen's working on as well for 2021, because there's always a lot to discuss at many of these committee meetings, but maybe prioritizing what has to be discussed and approved should be prioritized so that you get through your agendas, because we can put this in writing, but we all know that in the real world, it's still a struggle.
Yeah, and thanks for that point, Linda. I think that also kind of adds to or supports the idea of having a pre-meeting, because you can kind of run through the agenda, make sure that the most important topics are at the top and that you get through those. So that's a good point, Linda. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other comments on that, Veronica or Kathy?
Yeah,
Kathleen? Okay. And then the final point here is the Antitrust Policy Statement. And we, for every one of our committee meetings, especially the very first meeting, we read the Antitrust Policy statement out loud to make sure that everybody understands. And just talk a little bit about that. And Kathleen, you can jump in. Everybody hopefully is familiar with, I know NAR has put out a lot of guidance about antitrust and the fact that as realtors, we are competitors. Also, we work together, but we're also competitors, and just making sure that we're not doing anything like talking about commissions, any conversations about or around standardized commissions, problematic, anything related to having conversations about, we don't like this in a committee meeting, if it goes to, we don't like how this particular company does this or whatever, you want to steer clear of that. Any examples, Kathleen, you can think of that are kind of conversations that you want to steer clear of for fear of going down the wrong antitrust road?
Yeah, I think you basically summarized it pretty well. I just was going to say, I always think back to, I did a webinar a couple years back. It was and one of the attorneys from the Department of Justice. And she did say specifically that trade organizations, membership organizations, we are, just by the nature of how we operate, we are at a little bit of a higher risk for having antitrust violations, because this is not a brokerage meeting. We don't all work for one company. We are all competitors. We all work for different companies, right? So as Colette was saying, if we have a committee meeting and someone talks about a standard commission rate, that's basically anti-competitive and anti, business, et cetera, et cetera. We want competition. We want, a robust business economy. We want a lot of competitors in the marketplace. So any kind of agreement, even if it's, implicit or explicit, an agreement that they're setting certain fees, this is what the fee is going to be. We're all going to charge the same fee. We're all going to charge the same commission. That is a no-no. You would have to shut that down immediately. Someone's business model, this comes up every once in a while. There's a lot of changes in the industry and different business models, and things are, new companies and new brokerages are doing things different ways. Somebody does, you may not like that. We don't want that. We don't want to work with them. We're not going to show their properties. That is a no-no. You can't boycott a competitor because you don't like their business model. So just again, keep in mind, we are a whole bunch of different people from different companies sitting around that table, and you do really have to be aware of the possibility or the risk of these type of conversations occurring. So as Colette had said, I would say, especially at the first meeting, it's important to read that antitrust statement and make sure that everyone's aware of it and everyone understands it. I think a little bit later on, we were going to talk about what happens if something comes up during a meeting. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but you do need to make sure that everyone's aware of it. I think as the second meeting, every subsequent meeting, maybe you read it, maybe you don't. You should at least, it should be on your agenda, and it should be, the chair should reference it and maybe instruct people or remind people that the antitrust policy applies, of course, to this meeting as it applies to every meeting. But I don't think you need to read it at every meeting after the first one.
Right. All right. So that's good. So we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Let's go on to talk about meeting materials. So, and we already kind of covered this a little bit, but usually how, and I believe this is how it works at Hartford, works at Maryland Realtors as well. We will send out the meeting materials in advance to ensure that you have had enough time to review the materials, review the topics, give them some considerable thought so that you come to the meeting prepared to have a robust discussion. And I do want to highlight that second point, only staff emails committee members. That is always been our process at Maryland Realtors. Now, there could be some discussion, I guess, if the agenda if staff sends out the agenda and then maybe somebody comments on it to the group, I think that's fine. But generally, the staff will email the committee volunteers. Anything you want to add to that, Veronica or Kathleen or Kathy?
That is correct, and it is not a stifle conversation or a control conversation, but it's always to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and that somebody else left off of an email or targeted. So we want to really make sure that we know that everything that goes out of here is within the guidance of our association. And that's the way we staff want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. Veronica, do you have anything else on that?
No, I echo her statement.
All right. Very
Yeah.
good. Anything you want to add, Kathleen? You're good to go? All right,
No,
meeting
I'm good.
location.
I'm good.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I should have put it in the chat. I just wanted to say, I don't know if there's anything different that Kathy or anyone at the training center can do to make their sound more audible. I can hear everyone else clearly, but, and I think I can hear Veronica. It's maybe Kathy needs to be closer to the mic or something. There's a lot of reverberation, almost like an airport. That's what I'm getting. I don't know if anyone else is. Sorry to
Can you
interrupt.
hear me now if I talk louder? Is that better?
Yes, that sounds better. Thank you.
I can put my mask down if I'm going to talk.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay. All right, was that Paula? Thank you, Paula. All right. All right, so meeting location. Wow, so everything's, talk about meeting locations after COVID. We've got all kind of hybrid situations going on. I think this is all kind of in process, right? I know at Maryland Realtors, we had our very first hybrid meeting, or at least my very first one where I sort of staff a hybrid meeting. It's going to obviously depend on your setup. Our purpose for the hybrid meetings, which we have had very good success with, is it just allows more opportunity for folks to participate. As you all know, we service the entire state, so we have had way more participation from, you know, folks don't have to drive down from Garrett County for a 2-hour meeting. They can participate via Zoom. So there have been many downsides to COVID, but one of the upsides has been has forced us into looking at how we convene and meet differently. And it has opened up the opportunity for much more engagement from the membership and the opportunity for more folks to participate. We do, it went in this sort of kind of in process or influx medium. It is important to, you know, take care of those kind of housekeeping things, make sure your microphone is on mute, you know, so that everybody can hear, try to kind of do away with those side conversations. But just having some sort of a game plan in place so that all the ways that folks are participating, you know, there can be as much engagement as possible. Anything you want to add to that, Kathleen or Veronica or Kathy?
Honestly, I would just say the same, kind of the same theme that we had before. You may want to have a pre-meeting meeting to practice this as well. If you're going to be doing your first hybrid meeting, maybe have someone in the rooms, have someone participate remotely, just to make sure that everyone can hear, everyone can see. You can screen share so everyone, you know, is able to see the documents you want to have everybody reviewing during the meeting. Just, you know, a little, at least again before the first meeting, I think a practice would be helpful. Yes,
Kathleen, here at the association, the association executives have granted each chair the ability to make that decision whether or not they want to be in person or virtual at this time. So it is up to them completely how they want to operate. We're still working out the bugs in the hybrid situation. This is our first big attempt at something like that, but for the moment, we do allow people to call in on the phone. We do allow a meeting to be completely virtual or completely in person. So that's how it is at this point.
Good thinking.
But it also to do with no days, which is bad for the staff because now we can't have an excuse for closing the office. So we are, you know, we can operate, you know, constantly now because of virtual. We can change that in a minute. You know, give everybody the notice that we're going to all be virtual because of bad weather. So that's side of it too.
so I was thinking those 2-hour school delays are not going to be as problematic as they were previously.
Right, right. And then the other thing, and yeah, when we did we have, the way we have it set up at Maryland Realtors, we have a different setup for the classes that we teach, which are hybrid, and then we have a different setup for the meetings. And it does take a lot of preparation to figure out, and it's not a perfect, you know, it's kind of like I said, we're figuring it out as we go. And just to say that, you know, you guys, this is great what you guys are doing, Hartford. At the National Association of Realtor Conference in San Diego, they had some hiccups during the meetings as well. So, everybody is kind of figuring out what's going to work and what isn't, and hopefully we'll get to the point where we kind of get some mastery of it. But it's we'll just hopefully everybody will kind of keep an open mind as we figure out for each association, what works the best, based on what they have and what they're trying to accomplish. So, anything you want to add? Anything? We're good on that?
I think we're good.
All right, let's go on. All right, might want to, do you want to go ahead and pull up the Robert's Rules handout? Just important points here: familiarize yourself with the rules and how to start a meeting, how to make a motion, how to have the discussion, how to round out the discussion, how to do the vote. So Kathleen's going to pull up the Robert's Rules. Really, really critical that everybody has a clear understanding of the basic concepts behind it, because as we were talking about with some of the larger meetings, legislative might be one, public policy statewide forums where you have a lot of folks in attendance, which is great. That could be, it could be a challenge making sure that everybody stays on task, that the discussion is focused and all of that. So.
Are you seeing the
No,
PDF?
I see, it says notes.
Oh, I don't know what's going on there then. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Oh, resume. Do you see that now?
No, I don't see
Oh, I don't know what that is.
it looks like
I don't think
a
I've ever seen that
screenshot of
before
your
in my
computer.
life. Let me stop
Can you
this.
stop the share?
Yeah. And I go again.
And then see again.
There it is. I don't know what that note thing is. That was strange. Okay, now can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. There we go.
Right.
There's another little glitch, and thank you for your grace in allowing me to muddle through that.
All right. So we used this this handout when we did our chair vice chair training on the state level, and I like it because it's really straightforward. Usually at the beginning of every committee meeting at Maryland Realtors, we hand out the little red book. I don't know if anybody really reads that, but it's got some pretty good detail in there about kind of the Robert's Rules and the order of meetings. But this is nice and succinct. A person makes a motion, another person has to second the motion before there can be discussion. The chair then states the motion so everybody's clear about what the motion is. And then the chair opens the motion for a discussion. And usually, again, if it's a lot of people, you want to have staff kind of keep track of who might want to make a comment so that the conversation is ordered and people have an opportunity to speak. So that's kind of how we have it set up at Maryland Realtors. We have our staff person kind of keeping tabs on who raised their hand first so that we can go in order so everybody has an opportunity to be heard. That's really critical that that people aren't talking out of turn, because again, the goal is to get through the business. The chair then, after the discussion, she or he will say, does anybody have anything to say that has not already been said, for example? And then the chair will put the motion to vote and announce the outcome. But that order of conversation, that order of discussion is really, really key, especially in those committees where there are lots of folks and you want to make sure that the meeting doesn't go off the rails. Anything you want to add to that, Kathleen?
I just was going to say, Colette, that's you explained it perfectly, but it sometimes with some committees are maybe a little bit looser or a little more informal. And I will just tell you what happens is the topic will come up on the agenda and everybody starts discussing it. and there is no motion and there is no second. So as much as you can impose this sort of structure, you will have more effective meetings, more efficient meetings, and you'll get to the point more quickly, get to your vote and kind of focus the topic and focus the conversation on what is the motion, what are we trying to do here. So that may not feel natural the first couple times you do it because people just want to start talking, but really you should try and get your committees focused and a little bit structured to make sure that there is a motion made first and then motion is seconded, and that's when the discussion begins. If the motion isn't seconded, then that is probably not something that's popular and something people don't want to do, and you don't need to discuss it at all. So that's another way just to make sure that your meetings are efficient and you're moving forward, and as Colette had said, to make sure that everyone is heard as well.
Can you arrow down a little bit,
Kathleen.
Kathleen, just so to see some of the pertinent points?
Kathleen?
Yes.
Kathleen, it's Veronica. I would add to that for a new chair, the idea behind this and to get used to it is by making your minutes motions at the very beginning, because how you make your motion for the minutes is identical to any motion you're going to end up making for the rest of the meeting. So how it happens in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bubble lineup is exactly the same for your minutes as it is for any other motion that you're going to have. So get used to it by doing your minutes, which is a very simple, easy, straightforward motion. And remember, chairs cannot make a motion. Chairs cannot make a motion. So what we like to have happen is your vice chair moves that along. The vice chair is the one who should be in touch with what's going to happen, and they can second a motion to keep things moving, or they can make the motion to start things. But that's a very good position for the vice chair to be in, to keep things running smoothly, to keep close tabs on that. So that's all I have to add.
That was a great point.
Yeah. Let me see, go down a little bit more, Kathleen, just to see.
Okay.
All right, so you all have the handout. So just make sure, and I would say it's a good practice to just review this real quick before each meeting, really, just to kind of refresh. I don't know how often you have your meetings, but good practice to just review this real quickly before the meeting starts, so everybody is on the same page.
Yeah. The second page is amendments. I don't think we need to go through that, but just be aware that's a little bit more, if someone makes a motion and then there's some discussion and they want to change it, there's a little process for that as well. So that's the second page of that handout there. And again, you should be familiar with that. May or may not be utilized very often during your meetings. I guess it depends on your committee, but there's a process for that as well.
That's what your staff is there to help you for. Staff liaison can help you if it gets more complicated than the basic motion.
Right.
You know, we're there to help you. Just look at us and we'll be like, yes, this is what you do. So.
And that's helpful.
All right, I'm going to stop and then start again just to avoid that trouble from before.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Oh, that's weird. That was my slide deck that turned into notes. How did that happen?
Oh, that's.
I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on there.
Is that the slide deck?
Now it's back.
Back?
Okay, that's all right. That was a little bit strange. So again, thank you for tolerating that.
That's good. All right, looks good, looks good. All right, let's keep it moving. Anybody have any questions about Robert's rules? Okay.
All right.
All right.
Move on.
All right. So staff and volunteers work together to achieve goals. I can't emphasize this enough. It is a, and I love this image. It's a partnership that you know, and both staff and volunteers. It's key to follow the process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I mean, I really want to follow the process in bold, or we probably should have, because that's so incredibly important that you know, you follow the process and you use the tools like Robert's rules to help you stay on track, right? The focus is really on what is in the best interest of the association, Again, we talked a little bit about the strategic plan, the core standards, and making sure that the objectives and the agenda and the goals for the year align with the goals of the strategic plan for the association, as well as core standards. And we use the Roberts rules and the other tools that we have to stay on track, right? But again, staff and volunteers work together, really, really critical to achieve the common objective, right? Anything you want to add to that, Kathleen?
You nailed it.
Can I add?
Yeah, Kathy, go ahead.
Quickly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Colette? The one thing that we've kind of over the 35,000 foot core standard, that the association can be certified or whatever if we do not complete those core standards. And that it's very important that we have, as staff, we work very hard to make sure that all that, like 40-some pages, it's like tons of questions, all that has to be done. And we have to make sure we have it completed, and then Marilyn has to look at it, to believe and submit it, and the president and the vice president looks at that too. And we're just right now finishing up our core standards. We're waiting for a major document for our audit to be done. So, you know, your audit's got to be in there, your bylaws, there's a lot of detailed information, and a lot of that comes out of the committee too. So the liaisons of your committees are going back and working on those core standards. So when we get ready to do our core standards, I have all the staff in the room, and we're sitting in a room like this, and we're going through everything, every question, and we're all working together to get that done. So it is really critical. I can't emphasize how important that is for us.
It's how we stay chartered.
It's how we stay chartered. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
And I can chime in on that. I had went back a couple of days ago and looked at earlier this year. There were some updates, and really it is just exactly what Kathy said. NAR takes the core standards very seriously. The obligation of each of the local and state associations to satisfy all of those requirements in every one of those areas, to report it accurately and timely, through the state association, and any changes that need to be made. The final version has to be submitted to NAR on a timely basis. And that was some of the updates that they made this year. They really are very, very strict with the timeframes too. And you could potentially be decertified, and there's a very strict appeal process. Anyway, the bottom line is that this is important, and you can't take this lightly, because there could potentially be some serious consequences if we don't comply with these requirements.
Good.
Yeah.
So we're a partnership, and we can't, as staff from Maryland Realtors, we can't do what we need to do without you, and vice versa. So we value that partnership, that relationship so much. And we thank you. We thank you for your service. Let's go on to our pack. Oh no, minutes. I'm sorry, minutes. The minutes are key. We want to make sure that there is a record, right, of what happened in the meeting. And I know from Maryland Realtors, staff prepares the minutes after the meeting and make sure, they're taking notes. There's a note taker, whomever that may be, just making sure that everything that's happening is being recorded. It's an accurate reflection of what happened at the meeting. And of course, those minutes are then provided to the board of directors so that they can review and have an understanding of what happened at the meeting. So the minutes are key. And of course, at the next meeting, the committee will review the minutes to make sure that they're accurate and accurately reflect what happened at the meeting. So critical to have that record be clear and true and accurate, so that folks who were not there can understand what happened.
And Colette, just so everybody knows, that those minutes are part of any legal document. If the association was sued or anything like that, those would be the first things that are coming after your minutes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, Kathy. It's basically, this is a corporation, right? And those are official corporate documents. So Kathy's exactly correct. That's why it's important to make sure they're accurate, make sure that, you're asked to review the minutes and approve them, you really should review them before you
Yeah.
approve them and make sure they are accurate and reflect what the committee decided, what was approved, what was not approved, because Kathy's exactly right. You know, God forbid there's some litigation or whatever. It is an official corporate document and it should obviously be accurate.
Right.
And
Even,
let's work sometimes because you want to make sure you're just putting a lot of emotions in there and not a lot of pop, because as we say, those are being looked at, scrutinized. So you have to be really careful what you put in this minute too.
right. Even down to reviewing who was there and who was not. That's really key. So you want to make sure that you take the time. It's part of the preparation when you're before the meeting to go through the materials that staff sends out. It will be the agenda, the minutes from the previous meeting, and go through those materials, read the antitrust statement, read Robert's rules so that you're ready to go for the meeting. All right.
We no longer have to put in there who made the motion and who seconded the motion. Just these motions been made, seconded, and approved. And you don't have to, back in the olden days, you had to put who made the motion and who seconded, but that is not Robert's rules. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colette and Kathleen.
Yeah, ours is exactly that, Kathy. We don't say who, it's just a motion was made, seconded, and approved. This is what the motion is.
That's it.
All right, so RPAC expectation, $20 for members and $100 for board of directors. We had the pleasure of watching the Harford County dues video. I don't know if you all have seen that. It was fantastic. Do it with dues. We have had, and Veronica, you can speak to this, and Kathleen, I think you can as well. Maryland, as a state, has had a fantastic year with our RPAC participation. I think the highest ever. And we are just thrilled about that. You have any specifics on that, Kathleen or Veronica?
I was just going to say for NAR does set goals. You know, they want,
Right.
Each board to achieve at a certain level. The RPAC participation is a pretty straightforward one to understand, just how many of your members participate and contribute at the $20 level, right? That's going to be your participation. And typically for the entire state of Maryland, actually the goal from NAR, the goal is to hit 37%. And honestly, in the state of Maryland, it kind of varies, but we sometimes have struggled to hit that or been just right around there and, maybe get a little bit more than that. This year has just been phenomenal. I think Maryland was, if not the highest, certainly one of the highest participation rates in the entire nation. We had 53% participation this year.
That's fantastic.
Which is really, really unheard of. Mark is in Nashville now. There's an RPAC, a seminar, a 3-day type thing through NAR. And we all saw pictures. Mark was up on the stage. I think everyone wants to know, what did you guys do? How did you do it? So kudos to all of you as well for getting your members and your colleagues and your other agents in your office to understand the significance of RPAC. And really kudos to you, Veronica, as well.
Absolutely.
She's a great resource for you. Honestly, off the record, she's a great resource for me. Sometimes we get random calls on the legal hotline. Someone wants to know some nuance of something that's going on in Harford County. Veronica has been a great help. So she's really a great resource and a really, really a strong supporter of the Realtor Party and RPAC. So again, you guys are fortunate to have Veronica on your team.
Kathleen, I'll send you your check later. Thank you. But I would also like to let everybody know that you see on the screen, it says expectation for members and board members, and you see the little hashtag do it with dues. That's the campaign we started 2 years ago now, 2 financial cycles, 2 annual dues cycles ago. And it has really, really done well. We have started having the president make a video. If you haven't seen this year's video with Heather, just shoot me an email. I'll send you the link. I thought we were going to play it today. I know we probably don't have enough time to fill, with all these kinds of things, but it was an exceptional video done very, very well. And the first year we did it with Chris. So, please, even if you can't do lots of money, at least do the basic with your dues so that we can meet the goals that we need to meet for NAR and Maryland. And again, we did a great job this year. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
And you can still contribute even if you didn't do it with your dues.
Correct. After, if you don't do it with your dues, you can absolutely come see me after the first of the year, and then we can start all over, because the RPAC year is different from our dues year. That's very, very important to understand. If you don't pay it with your dues, then after the first of the year, it starts all over again. So that's it.
Good, good. All right. All right, so we're wrapping things up. Just a few tips and best practices. Keep the morale of the volunteers up. You know, they're giving their time and, you know, at no charge. And so we want to do as much as we can to keep the morale up and empower, engage, be respectful and courteous. That can be a challenge. I know sometimes, again, with the larger committees, you know, when folks maybe are not, you know, speaking out of turn, or maybe somebody takes something the wrong way, just make sure that you do as much as you can to emphasize the importance of being courteous and respectful, and making sure, you know, the chair recognizes that person before they speak. Those kinds of things go a long way towards keeping the meeting going and keeping the engagement up and making sure that there's a successful outcome to the meeting. Anything to add there?
I would just add again, just to reiterate or emphasize the importance of having members be recognized before they speak.
Right.
Again, depending on your committee, this can be more challenging with some committees than with others. And I'll just give one example. I'm the staff liaison for our global business committee at the state level, and we have a lot of members who are they're originally from different countries, right? And we have some loud Americans on there as well. And honestly, there was a little bit, or there can be a little bit of a cultural difference sometimes. We have some people who are from different cultures, and they would sit there very politely and raise their hand and wait and wait and wait and never say, hey, you skipped me, or anything like that. Just raise their hand politely and wait. And then we had other people who would you know, give their opinion. If someone disagreed or asked a question, they would just keep going and keep going and keep going. In the meantime, there's one person sitting quietly with their hand up. So that's something, again, for you, Chair, maybe the Vice Chair as well, can keep an eye on that and pay attention to that. If there's someone who is trying to be acknowledged and wants to speak, make sure that they are recognized and they have the opportunity to do that, because some people are they'll sit back and wait when other people will be a little more forceful. So it's important to be aware of that and be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I'll just a little bit of a point just to add to that. You know, the chair really is the one who sets the tone for the meeting. You have the power to control the meeting, to make sure it stays on track, make sure everybody has had an opportunity to be heard. You know, keep an ear out, you know, watch people's expressions and make sure that, you know, that the courtesy and the respect is there. And if you know, do see an issue, address it immediately. Don't let it fester, right? All right, anything else to add to that?
Nothing from me.
Okay, let's go on. All right, so tips and best practices with regard to the meetings and the liaison. The staff liaison is your best friend, right? They provide the agenda items and work with the chair and vice chair to put the agenda together. They are the ones, the staff liaison, that emails and texts and contacts the volunteers. I don't know if you guys are texting, but and they speak with staff, the chair and vice chair prior to the first meeting. That pre-meeting, I think that last bullet point really is kind of emphasizes again that importance of having that pre-meeting before that first meeting to kind of set the tone for the entire year.
I have nothing to add.
All right. All right, so chairs and vice chairs, best practices. Chairs may, we talked about this a little bit earlier, call volunteers if they've missed the meeting to find out what's going on. Chair remarks are not action items. The action items are the items that are listed on the agenda, the topic items on the agenda. You want to always be mindful and respectful of people's time. We have 3 minutes left, all right? We talked about reviewing the minutes. And the vice chair, really critical role, be prepared to assist. You play a critical role in making sure that the meeting is ran effectively. Help the chair out if you see you know, you check the chat box, just do what you can to make sure that the meeting stays on track and that the chair is following the agenda as they should be. Anything to add to that?
Excellent.
Yes.
Also, the vice chair would take over the meeting if the chair cannot be there. So
That's
the
right.
vice chair needs to be up to speed as to what's happening. And we always like to see the vice chairs maybe move up into the chair position. So that really gives them the first step in of really understanding how to run the meeting. And usually a chair has been in that position as vice chair before, so it really helps you the flow. And we like to see people coming from the chair to the vice chair to the board of directors. So we really appreciate when people understand the whole process of the meeting. It really makes it go easier and just gels everything.
Good. Great. Thank you, Kathy. We just have a couple of items here. Quorum, what would, if takeaway about quorums, we need one. In order to do business, we need a quorum. The committee can't really do its business, can't do its business without a quorum. So it's really important. I know sometimes it's a challenge. I know for us staff on the state level, when we're working with our committees to find out who's going to be there and who isn't, we have had to cancel meetings because we have not had a quorum. So really critical when staff sends out the agenda and the meeting materials to let them know if you're going to be in attendance so that they can determine whether or not they have a quorum and can move forward with the meeting. Kathleen or Veronica, you want to talk about that fourth bullet point? In the absence of a quorum, a motion may be passed via email only by unanimous consent.
Correct. In our association, if you do not have a quorum in your meeting, you can talk all you want, but you cannot pass your minutes and you cannot pass a motion without that simple majority. So what you can do is have an email vote, but the email vote becomes a little more difficult in that it requires that you pass that motion with 100%. By unanimous consent, every single person has to say yes, versus if you're in committee and you have the quorum, you just need that simple majority to get a motion passed. So it is a little more complicated, but it can be done, and we have been known to do it here from time to time, especially when you need to get something done quickly. So yes, we can do motions via email, but preferably you want to do it in the committee because it's easier. That's what it comes down to.
And it's the same for the board of directors also.
Correct.
All right. I think we are coming up on our last slide about the antitrust, and we talked a little bit about some of the different things, the road that you don't want to go down. And Kathleen, I don't know if you had an incident in one of your committees where there was an issue. What happens if somebody does cross that line? What do you do practically speaking?
Yeah, this is something to pay attention to. It seems a little bit counterintuitive first, but if some inappropriate discussion comes up, the chair should, of course, first point that out to the person and ask them to discontinue that discussion. It's not appropriate. You want to discontinue that. If for some reason the person refuses or the person continues or someone else chimes in, you may have to terminate the meeting. You cannot allow those discussions to continue. But the part that maybe seems counterintuitive, you want to make sure that the minutes for that meeting reflect exactly what happened. If God, again, as Kathy said, God forbid there's a lawsuit or litigation, but you want your minutes to reflect that the chair immediately tried to shut down that conversation. If the person refused and continued with the inappropriate line of discussion, the meeting was terminated. And you want your minutes to show that the chair handled it appropriately. The chair tried to shut it down and then terminated the meeting. And that should all be documented to show that you're aware of antitrust, you're aware of the significance of these issues, and you are willing to take appropriate action to guarantee that those talks do not occur. Not on your dime, not on your time, right? And your minutes would reflect that. So that's really the way. It's a good corporate documentation actually to include that in your minutes and make sure that it's documented that you did everything properly.
That's good. Very helpful. All right. Any questions? Anything in the chat box?
I don't think so. Was there anything in the chat?
All right. Hopefully the presentation was clear and straightforward for you, and maybe we shared some things that you didn't know. Hopefully we did not bore you to death. But that is all that we have, and we thank you for your time today.
Anybody have any questions? You're all waiting. But
No, no question.
No, and we appreciate all their work. Kathleen and Colette are so busy. They, we just can't thank them enough for doing this. And their price was really high. It was free, but we got them a gift that we'll make sure they get before Christmas. But we really do appreciate all their time. We appreciate you guys for being here today. This is recorded. So the people who were not able to make it because they have another work commitment, we will be sending those to them. It is not a requirement, but it's a highly suggested that they review what is going on here. So everybody is in tune, and we really can't thank you guys enough for your time, your commitment. And you are the backbone. What's going on with our organization. We have 22 committees. We have over 200 and some people that are on those committees, but only 100 of them are really the same people. So for instance, 200 out of those 200, there's a lot of people like Pat Lane is on 3 different committees. So we know you guys cross over a lot. Our goal is to get a lot more people on committees so that you're not having to do so much work. Again, thank you very much. And we know the executive committee, you have a ton of committees that you're on, and we appreciate that very much. So thank you, everybody, for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Your board members on here
Thank
like,
you, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Good seeing everybody. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kathleen, how does this work? Did you guys feel, or anybody feel good that goes back and forth?
Yeah.